It's Will Sean Podcast. The internet cried out for 2 more blowhards, and they courageously answered that call. Armed with the weapon of wit, each week they're joined by guests to discuss movies, television, pop culture, and anything else that's pissing them off. Take it away, boys.
I'm Willing.
And I'm Sean David.
And this is Will Sean Podcast?
Now that we've reached the 270 threshold, I guess we are. How's it going, Will?
Wait, what? How many?
The electors.
Oh.
They were all, some were faithless, though.
I thought you had the episode number wrong.
No, I'm not there.
Okay, I'm doing all right. I'm doing, I feel like the year's ending on some good notes for me, personally. I mean, for the world is fucked, but, I'm going home for Christmas.
Okay. For like four minutes.
I'm going for 4 big days.
Yeah.
My shortest Christmas trip ever.
Well, until you get snowed in and stuck there for another 2 days.
That's what I told my boss today when she was being like, so you will be here next week. And I said, well, if I get snowed in New York, I won't be.
Yeah.
And at that moment, she was hesitant to let someone else take a day off next week. And I was like,
someone else
I'm like, no. I will be,
you're making best efforts. It's not like you're going out of your way to,
I'll be fine.
All right.
I'll be fine. Well, I mean, 1 out of 11 years I got snowed in New York.
Okay.
So, I like my odds.
The best year.
Yeah, 8.3%.
It was a rough year. Who's our sponsor? No, my God.
What's going on in the world of
What's going on in the world of Will Sean Podcast? I don't know what's wrong with me.
Want to continue thanking all of our listeners, as I usually do. Make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes. Give us a star rating. Leave a little comment. Tell your friends about it. We keep telling you, this is a free gift. You can just give the gift of Will Sean Podcast. It's not going to cost you a damn thing.
10 stars. That's what they should give it.
10 stars. Yeah.
I don't even know if that's possible, but 10 stars.
No, what you do is you create multiple iTunes accounts, and then you go and you rate it multiple times.
Okay, that works for me. Why aren't you and I doing that?
I'm a busy man.
I was unemployed for a really long time. I could have been doing that.
Your fault.
You should have told me.
You could have been artificially propping us up.
If only the Russian hackers had been doing that instead of...
Russia, if you're listening, go hack our podcast.
And who is our sponsor this week?
Lists. Things that the government will soon be really, really interested in.
Oh, my God.
It's a dark one already.
It's going to be a dark episode because it is. This week on Will Sean Podcast, we're blowing out all the topics, basically. We got one topic. 2016. The terrible year or the most terrible year. And I could only think of one person I wanted to come talk about the miseries of existence.
But he wasn't available, so instead, what we have.
We have. You've heard him on this show not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times. You have even just heard him
you have heard him 4 times.
You've even just heard him breaking the 4th wall here. Mr. Alex Stein.
Woo!
Welcome back, sir.
That's a very, very weak applause I did. I'm very happy to be here. It's a sad, dark time for humanity, and we're going to get into all of that.
What was it? There was a podcast I was listening to, or maybe it was The Daily Show, where they were talking about this whole Trump presidency, and they said, and the worst part is, we're terrified, and we're not even on the ride yet. We're still waiting in line.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into that, and we'll get into that, or maybe we'll find some silver linings in this year. First, Alex, this is your 5th time on the show. This is a record.
This is very exciting to me, and I've noticed that there are, as we tape this, there are 19 chairs for every time I've been on the podcast.
Listen.
There are a lot of chairs in the podcast studio, so
There's some stuff going on here, okay?
No, we should have like 12 guests. We should have like the 12 guests of Christmas.
Just do a big round table.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
We don't have enough mics.
Okay.
Got them all crowded around one microphone.
So, Alex,
pass the mic.
You're one of our favorite guests. You're one of our favorite people. That's why we would like to have you on at least once a year. And I feel like the new tradition is to have you end the year with us.
And if ever a year needed ending right away, it was this one.
I've honestly, because we still have like 2 weeks left, there's like so many shoes that have still yet to fall.
Well, before we get into that, we all know your life's history because you've been on this show before. You've talked about Mush. You've talked about your time your book, No Mr. Bond.
I expect your dreams to die.
You've talked about shows you've been in, shows you've run. What as this year ends, what are you up to? Like, what are you doing now? What is the next great Alex Stein creative pursuit?
There's a couple of things. As people who are following me might know, and really who isn't, to steal Dylan Brody's line, I stopped doing the Muse Literary Salon in April after doing it for 2.5 years, weekly for 2.5 years.
I don't know how you do that. It was
Two
such
and
a
a half
grind.
years. And I sometimes joke, and then I realized no one should do that. And Oscar Sagastume took that over and is doing that and is doing a great job. I have two things in the storytelling world coming up. One is
The Moth.
Let's get into that in a
three
minute.
things actually.
Let's get into that in a minute. All right.
At the beginning of January, or the end of January, I am co-producing the Los Angeles version of the election monologues. We are doing a show where we are going to have a bunch of storytellers talking about the election that we just had. The bad one.
I recently saw you do a very good piece that was a response to the election. I don't know if that's going to be part of.
Yes, that will be part of it.
It was very good.
Thank you. And this is a show that is going to go on, I believe, in 16 or 17 cities all around the country, all on January 20th, which is Inauguration Day.
Oh, wow.
And also a Friday. We don't have the venue yet, but that is still, there's a couple of places that we might do it. But that will be on the 20th of January, and we are doing it as a benefit, probably for the Southern Poverty Law Center, an anti-hate group. And then I also, shortly after that, am going to be launching a new show that I'm producing that is a personal essay storytelling show called The Penultimate Show, the second to last storytelling show you ever need.
I love the title. I love the name there. It's great. Do you have a venue for that yet, or is that still in the works?
I'm not ready to announce it, but I believe I have the venue.
Well, if you need some chairs, I'm just saying, I got a guy.
Excellent.
And if you need some readers,
I definitely do. I definitely need the Will Sean bump, reader bump.
I have been doing a lot of shows lately. Have you been doing a lot of shows? Because I've been, ever since I started working regularly, who knew that this would occupy so much time, I've been a little less out in the storytelling world. I have only done a couple of shows, and I've also
been working on different kind of writing stuff.
I've been writing different things too. I think I've said I've written a novel that I'm working on a second draft of as we speak. I'll probably be sending it your way for thoughts at some point soon.
Excellent.
Alex. But so have you been doing a lot of shows lately, or have you found yourself kind of in the same?
Well, Sagastumi froze you out, because he's stonewalling you from the.
It's funny when he took over, he asked me. I'd been keeping a running list of everyone who had appeared on the show, and he asked me to send it to him, and I sent it to him, and he either called me up or emailed me, I forget which, and said, you misspelled my name every time it appeared.
Well, that's fine. I mispronounce his name every time I'm forced to say it.
Tell him to just what? Go ahead, Sagasumi.
Yeah, exactly. I've been doing a couple shows a month on average. I'd like to be doing more, but frankly, I just haven't had the time. And I go through these spurts where I'll do like a whole bunch of shows and then I'll not do anything for a while. But also, as you mentioned, I actually won the Moth this year.
Yes.
And we'll be competing in the Moth Grand Slam on January 23rd.
That's a busy weekend for you. You got the elections, you got that.
Yeah, well, you got to do something, otherwise you'll think about who's president.
So you won the Moth.
Dude named Hussein.
You won the Moth.
Yeah.
And I know you had been,
So the Grand Slam is like the Jeopardy Tournament of Champions? Like, is
Yes.
that okay?
Only rather than winning cash prizes, my understanding is that if you win the Grand Slam, you get, I think, a hoodie.
Okay.
Oh, hey, that's quite the hoodie. And you'll never take it off.
Exactly.
Like, what was the story you told? Obviously, don't tell us the entire story, but what was the story you told that finally won you the moth there? Something you, if I may add, should have won in the past.
Thank you. That was Will saying that, not me, because I'm very gracious, except when the mics are off. It was a story about being at a Ralph's parking lot where there was a woman who was being berated and bullied by this big guy who clearly didn't know her but was screaming at her. And I had just come from Taekwondo training, and this was a shock to me and to anyone who knew me before I started doing Taekwondo training. But I actually interceded and put myself between the two of them. And I said to the guy, "What are you going to do, hit her?" And he said, "Maybe." And I said, "Well, here's the thing. You're not going to hit her. If you have to hit someone, you hit me."
Oh.
And then he sort of took a step back and he was trying to decide whether or not he wanted to hit me. And I said, "But here's the thing. I'm a brown belt in Taekwondo. So if you hit me, I'm going to hit you back, and then I'm going to put you on the ground."
Nice. And he backed off then.
And then he backed off, and yeah. So it was one of those things which actually carries into this whole big push that I am on now, and that I will be on for the next 2 to 4 years, which is anti-bullying.
I thought he was fighting men in parking lots.
And that too.
You're starting a fight club, right?
Exactly. But the first rule is don't talk about it on the podcast. And, so I think that there has been so much bullying and so much vitriol and mean-spiritedness throughout the campaign, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. So that's my focus.
Okay.
Now, okay, so you got this new show, the penultimate show coming up. You doing the Moth again. You got a lot going on here. Let me ask one more question, because we've had you on multiple times when you were hosting Muse, and that was a weekly show, and it was also a show in which it was people, trying out new stuff.
Right.
And sometimes that could be a little rough. I mean, not
Yeah.
if Sean or I were there, but sometimes it could be a little rough. Is there something though, like, do you miss it at all? I mean, is there part of you that's still, like, Saturday night comes around and be like, there's somewhere I'm supposed to be? Or are you like, or you had really just, you were done at that point?
The answer actually is both.
Okay.
I miss it a lot. There were so many amazing people that I got to know in the storytelling community. There were a bunch of people I got to see who were rough when they started, but they had this something. They had this diamond in the rough quality, and I got to see them, really work at their craft and develop it and become amazing storytellers. But also, the part that I don't miss is that it's a grind to put on a weekly show. And, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who flake out. And so you have to roll with that. And you have to, every week, know that you've got to find 5 to 7 people who are going to get up and tell stories.
And actually show up.
And I'm reminded of what Lorne Michaels said about SNL. Not that I'm comparing myself to SNL, because, I never had years like those in the 80s with SNL. But Lorne Michaels used to say that the sketches don't go on when they're ready.
Yeah.
They go on when it's Saturday at 11:30.
Yeah.
So, there were times where there were people that I would have on the show at Muse that I had on because I needed someone. And, if it had been a monthly show or even every other week show, I wouldn't have had some of the people on that I had on. But, you got to feed the beast.
Well, you did it for a long time, and I applaud the fact that you did, because I think it's an important show as part of the storytelling community here in LA, because you need a place where you know there's a weekly show. You need a place where you know you can work out new material. And there aren't, you can't go, like, I want to read an essay. I can't, like, just go to some, like, comedy open mic and start reading an essay or something like that. You need
you can, but it will go really badly.
Exactly. So I think it's an important thing that you started, and I'm glad it is still going on. And So before we move on to everything that's awful, let's one last time tell the people everything that's good. Where can they find out about you, Alex? And where could the listener who's like, I wasn't listening 3 years ago to Will Sean podcast, like, I want to buy...
Why not? That's, problem one.
I want to buy his book. I want to, see that documentary. Where do they find everything you've got to offer?
When does this podcast go up?
Sunday night to Monday morning. We're recording a little early in the week, but yeah.
If I get it working, they could go to my website, which at the moment is not entirely functional, which is alexmstein.com. But the easiest way to find out stuff about me is to go on Facebook, facebook.com/AlexM, as in Michael Stein.
There you go.
If you're a good listener of the podcast, you have already been to Alex's
Did this
Facebook
4 years
page.
ago.
Yeah. Because we have a link to it on our page, and we have had a link to it on our Facebook page for years.
Yes.
Okay.
For those of you who might be starting the Relationship Will Sean podcast now at the end of the year on a guest we've had on 5 times, welcome.
Okay, so let's get into this, but I want to save some of the political stuff for a little later in this discussion. This is a pop culture podcast, and although politics did dominate popular culture in a way like I don't remember it ever before this year, it made it tough for us to find topics each week that weren't Trump related. But let's talk about some of the other pop culture things. Some of the highlights.
Well, so I made a list here in no particular order of some of like the major pop culture things that happened this year. So do you want me to just like start running it down?
Let's take one at a time.
Okay. We had Kanye West finally imploding. He spent months releasing and then de-releasing and re-releasing Life of Pablo, and then culminating in his recent hospital. So, and Kanye is...
And meeting with the president.
And meeting with the president, too.
I said I wanted the whole politics.
All right.
Kanye going to be the secretary of
National Endowment for the Arts.
Or whatever, yeah. Do you like the Kanye West there, Alex?
I'm not a huge Kanye fan.
No, neither am I.
Life of Pablo is an interesting album, but it's a big album. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Okay, so
there's a lot of stuff going on in his head.
Yeah, we got Kanye. We got the Cubs and the Cavs both ending their sports droughts, winning championships this year.
You got any thoughts on that?
Yes, I am. As most people know, I have not been a baseball fan since I was probably in high school or college. I don't really follow baseball. I love that the Cubs won because I have a lot of fans from Chicago, and it means the world to them.
Yep.
Sean and I were the only two assholes rooting against the Cubs. Sean, I, and my father were the only 3 jerks in America we were watching that last game like, Cleveland's going to come back. It's going to be great. Like, we're the only... You know why? Because I'm going to say 2 things about this.
You wanted Bill Murray to come and give you a pie in the face.
Yeah, well, that would have been fun. But here's the thing. First of all, I mean, we have no great curses anymore now.
No.
We have no great sports curses anymore. And I kind of like that you had these things that were ongoing.
Canadian hockey teams making it to the Stanley Cup is the new curse.
The other one is this, and this I say to Cubs fans. What is your identity now?
Yeah.
You're just a regular team.
Yeah.
You're just a regular fucking team because you're not the best team. It's not like you're the Yankees with 27 world championships.
You're just good. You have just as many as like the Diamondbacks. Congratulations.
Yeah.
The Tampa Bay Rays.
You've got... So I feel like... I wonder if the Cub fan will now... And I know people said the same thing about the Red Sox fans, and the Red Sox fans, I guess, did just fine for themselves. But I wonder what the Cubs fan new identity can be. I mean, does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think they're all going to put all their money into old Seattle Pilots memorabilia.
Yeah. All right. Next, we had 2 good, Atlanta and Westworld, 2, shows. I love Atlanta. Anyone's not watching it is missing out. Westworld was kind of the new prestige. Yeah, new Lost, Game of Thrones. But, so 2 interesting shows that really kind of rose to the top of the pile here.
Can I express a contrarian view on Westworld?
Yeah.
I watched the first episode, which was so bad and so confusing that I didn't watch any of the rest of it.
Also, I don't love Westworld. I watch it, but it's a slog for me. But
I kind of love Westworld.
Yeah.
You mentioned it was like so confusing. At the end of the day, the show is actually deceptively simple. It's like I almost just said a lot of nonsense, which makes sense.
But
there's a
what
lot
everyone
going
tells
on.
me is that the second episode really should have been the first episode because the second episode introduces things.
Well, the second episode is the one that starts to take you into the world, where you see someone from the outside coming in for the first time.
Right.
Not that helps anything.
No, that helped me because I mean, look, I was in on concept, I think. I think there's some great performances going on. I think Evan Rachel Wood and Thandie Newton are both giving phenomenal performances, although, Thandie Newton doesn't have that big a part in the first episode.
Yeah,
so.
Right.
So, but are there any other like new shows that you've been
Medici's Masters of Florence.
Because here's the thing: you mentioned these two shows. These are two late in the year shows, but it strikes me.
Well, I got OJ as a separate thing.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, were there any other shows that you're currently into, or any shows that are going to carry us through into the new year with hope and optimism?
Well, you were mentioning what was in the bathroom.
Yeah. While you were in the bathroom, I was saying that one of the things I'm doing now is I am listening to the audiobook of Philip Roth's The Plot Against America, which is an alternate history where basically the Nazis win. And I'm going to spend Christmas break binge watching The Man in the High Castle.
Oh, okay. There you go. Did you watch the first season of that?
No.
I did not care for the first season. That I'm not watching the second, but I'd be curious to know what you think.
Well, they just gave me another. I never watch anything on Amazon until they give me a free trial of Amazon Prime.
Oh, well, then you might as well.
Think, okay, well now I'm
You're
watching
like, Mozart in the Jungle. Let's do this.
Yeah, exactly. Mozart in the Jungle, Man in the High Castle.
Yeah. All right. Next, we had I think it was a mediocre year for movies. It was pretty good, but
I think movies ended this year on a high note.
Yes.
Like Moonlight, Manchester by the Sea, La La Land. These are all great films to end the year with. But it was a slog of a summer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the summer was really
well. It started.
not good.
Well, also the year. Don't forget, started with Oscar So White. So that kind of set the tone for for the year. It feels like a different universe. But
Well, Oscars won't be an issue this year.
It will not be an issue this year.
I mean, what was some movie? I mean, was there some stuff that really moved you, grabbed you this year, movie wise, Alex?
Not a lot.
Krisha. It's a movie. I keep talking about Krisha. It came out at the beginning of the year. It's a small independent film.
I did not see that. I must
Definitely
admit.
worth checking out.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, there just wasn't a whole lot this year.
Even the summer blockbusters, like they were all disappointing. Other than like the usual, like I liked Captain America:
Right.
Civil War, like that was a quality film. But I mean, other than that,
You did like Independence Day Resurrection? Or Resurgence?
you had to deal with your Batmans versus your Supermans, which was terrible, and then your Suicide Squads, which was also terrible, but somehow not as terrible as Batman versus Superman, probably because at least it had a sense of humor.
Didn't we have a new Star Trek movie came out this year?
There was a new Star Trek movie, which was fine.
Yeah.
It was a fine movie, but I mean, the fact that
I completely forgot there was a new Star Trek
that's
movie.
the problem.
Yeah.
It was a very forgettable summer. I actually
Jungle
like
Book was good?
Jungle Book was good. I like the Ghostbusters movie.
Well, that's another one I got on the list here that female
We'll skip
Ghostbusters.
to it then.
Female Ghostbusters bust.
I think it's a shame that Ghostbusters didn't do well because I'm not saying it's some great movie. I'm not saying it's better than the original Ghostbusters, but
You better not be saying.
but it's a funny movie
I didn't think it was that funny.
with funny women.
But
You didn't think it was that funny? I laughed a
Well,
lot.
at least it was a running gag that went through the whole movie about dumplings and soup. So that was a good runner to hang Melissa McCarthy on.
But that's how there's one runner that isn't as strong as Kate McKinnon's hilarious
Yeah.
in it. All the stuff with Chris Hemsworth was
Yeah.
hilarious. Kate McKinnon, is she on your list?
Well, I got
Because-
SNL on fire.
Well, let's talk about Kate McKinnon
Yeah.
since we're already talking about her. I mean, who had a better year than Kate McKinnon? Ghostbusters, who steals every scene.
Yeah. Won an Emmy.
Won an Emmy. Her Hillary
She's
Clinton
basically
portrayal.
the only actress on SNL.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
every sketch now must feature her. It's the new law.
She's her new Kristen Wiig. You know, they work. It was a lot of pasty white dudes, a lot of interchangeable white guys on that show now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Kate McKinnon's so good. The Hillary Clinton stuff she did this year, because it was also like poignant.
Yeah.
It was also like the whole thing when she's playing that wasn't even a funny thing. When she's singing Hallelujah, playing the piano. I was crying at that.
And the thing this past weekend with the cards.
Yeah, the Love Actually sketch.
Yeah.
So, but we have to say that if we're on SNL, she's not the best thing about SNL. David S. Pumpkins. Can't forget David S. Pumpkins.
Do you even know?
Yes, and I just want to say I want to go back to a world where the biggest problem we have is David S. Pumpkins.
I'm going to confess something here. I was not a fan of that
I
skit.
thought it was so funny.
I don't get the David S. Pumpkins thing. I feel like I'm the only
that's
one.
your whole thing?
Yeah, I get it, but I just don't think it's that funny, David S. Pumpkins.
Oh, it's not.
Oh, thank you, Alex.
Okay. This is the year also Hamilton crested, so, just Hamilton mania infected every white person in America. So we got that. And then, of course, that dovetailed nicely in with our political situation from a few weeks back. Beyonce decided she was going to drop an album on a Saturday night. And then, don't forget, we had her at the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year.
We have Beyonce at the Super Bowl.
Performing a song that she had released the day before. Only Beyonce can get away with that.
By the way, saving the Super Bowl halftime show from the nightmare that is Coldplay. That is Alex, you're a music guy. Am I wrong in that?
There are one or two Coldplay songs I like.
Yeah?
And that's all I'm going to say.
Fair enough.
We got Brangelina breaking up.
Oh.
Very sad.
Yeah.
Do you believe in love anymore, Alex?
Between them and Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin of Coldplay.
Well, to be fair, she also needed to be saved from the nightmare that is Coldplay.
Hey, wait a second. Gwyneth Paltrow single, Brad Pitt single. Maybe they should get back together.
Remix.
Yeah, let's start all these relations. Let's go back. And Angelina Jolie.
Let's relitigate the 90s.
Yeah, and Angelina Jolie should go back and be with Johnny Lee Miller.
There we go.
Yeah, not before Billy Bob. Yeah, Johnny Lee Miller.
What else? We had something stupid like the mannequin challenge. That became a big thing.
We never talked about that.
Yeah, because it's dumb. I'm just tired of these social media.
I don't like that.
Don't forget there was an Olympics this summer in Rio.
Mm-hmm.
Did you remember that?
I did remember it, if only because I downloaded an NBC Sports app because the NBC coverage was so awful.
Yeah,
that
you just wanted raw feeds.
Yeah. Because I know that we've talked about this before, at least I think we have, but when we were kids, they used to show more than just every single American and the 3 people who got medals.
Yeah.
And now that's all they show.
Right.
And it's like, I want to maybe see the person from Belgium who's diving.
Hey, is Taekwondo an Olympic sport?
It is.
Are you thinking of making a run for 4 years to me?
Where is it? Is it Russia? The next one?
Isn't it enough that I can now bend down and touch my toes without bending my knees?
No.
Which I haven't been able to do since I was 5.
I am not satisfied until you bring home at the least a silver. At the least. No bronze. No
Bronze is for
allowed.
second losers. You got to get yourself in some of those Russian training facilities there where they're passing urine through the wall.
Okay, well, how more?
We got Ken Bone. We got to see the entire life cycle of a celebrity play itself out in the span of about a week and a half.
Ken Bone could go fuck himself. Undecided my ass.
O.J. Simpson, between the documentary and the show, was the year of O.J.
Okay, you want to know who's Entertainer of the Year? O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Did you watch all that? Did you watch both of those?
I didn't watch both of them. I watched the American
Horror Story.
American Justice.
Yeah.
American Crime Story.
American Crime Story. God.
The documentary is phenomenal. It's it's worth the time that it takes to watch it. It is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The documentary will probably be in my top 10 films of the year.
Yeah.
What did you think of American Crime Story? Because I thought it was pretty fantastic.
I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
I thought it was amazing.
It had no right to be.
I didn't expect it to be amazing. There were people in it who I ordinarily don't like that much who were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like who?
Like John Travolta.
Okay.
David Schwimmer.
Yeah.
Juice.
Yeah.
He did a good job.
Yeah. Did a
They all
really
did a good
job.
job. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I was very, very happy with that.
And then the last thing on the list, which we can't discuss 2016 without mentioning, death.
Which
There were people who died.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people
And Kirk
who died.
Douglas still kicking along.
Yeah, but you know who didn't make it to 100? Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Nah.
She just died.
Yeah, she got divorced
Yeah.
from life.
She couldn't make it to 100 there. Came close. I think she was like a month or so away.
Yeah.
To me, I think the biggest death was the first death, and that was Bowie.
Yep.
To me, that was the one that hit me hardest personally.
Should have been a sign of things to come.
I mean, that was rough.
Yeah.
Was that the one that hit you hardest too, or were there?
I think so. I think I wasn't all that personally affected by Prince, but I know a lot of people who were just devastated
Same.
when Prince died. I like Prince. I'm a fan of Prince. I do not worship everything that Prince did.
Yeah.
And prior to Prince dying, I would always say things like Prince would be so much better if he didn't release every single thought that came into his head. And of course, the joke's on me because now he has like 37 completed albums
Yeah.
or something that he didn't release. So the stuff that did come out, I guess, was the stuff he was more excited about.
Yeah.
There's gonna be new Prince stuff coming out when we're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like him and it was like Tupac.
Yeah, David Bowie to me was, because of anyone who died, I think he was the one of the people who died. He was the one I was the biggest fan of. Mm-hmm. But and also it was unexpected. He had just had a new album come out. And I remember reading a review of that album, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to pick up that Bowie album. And then he died, and I'm like, oh, shit, I really need to pick up that Bowie. And it's a great album.
Yeah, it's a really, really great album.
Yeah.
Phenomenal videos, just wonderful, wonderful stuff. And the fact that he had all of this planned, and most of the musicians who he was working with didn't even know that he was. I mean, they knew that he wasn't.
Yeah.
In peak health, but they didn't know that he was about to die.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali died.
Muhammad Ali.
I mean, that you don't get bigger in the world than Muhammad Ali.
I mean, Alan Thicke.
I mean, but yeah, even,
Taller.
Okay.
I mean, even Alan Thicke dying. I don't
Well,
know.
those are the facts of life.
He wrote that song.
Yeah.
He wrote a lot of good theme songs.
He did.
Great musicians died this year.
Yeah. Some of our finest.
We talked about Leonard Cohen
Yeah.
on a very recent episode.
Greg Lake just died
That's
from
right.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Now it's
Craig
Palmer. He gets
Crimson.
the Tontine annuity. He wins. he gets the treasure.
I know I'm forgetting a lot of deaths, but
Who else died? I mean, we had.
well, luckily there'll be an in memoriam at the Oscars to remind us.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
It was a
so
rough year. It felt like every month there was someone else was checking out.
now here's something I'm noticing. Like, Star Wars is out now,
Yeah.
and everybody fucking loves Star Wars. And it's award season, and people love award season. And I love this stuff. And this time of year, I'm tweeting a lot more about that stuff than I am about anything else.
Take your word for it.
And a year ago, I was in all these long conversations about movies. The day the SAG nominations came out last year.
Yeah.
I tweeted a bunch of stuff, and I was in this long, all-day dialogue with people. This year, I tweeted about it. One or two people responded to me. Star Wars,
Well,
same
your BFF,
thing.
Millie Bobby Brown. She.
She got a, she's great. This year, same thing with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Last year, Star Wars. Now, I don't know if this is the people seem to love Rogue One as much as they loved Force Awakens, but they're not talking about it as much. Alex, are we just all broken? Like, did the year break us? Like what I mean is, we
In
invested
terms of like social media and stuff, or
we invested so much into this election, and then we got such a shitty outcome that are people just not fun anymore? Does nobody want to talk about inconsequential fun? And I don't even want to say inconsequential, because I'm talking about movies, I'm talking about art, I'm talking about things like that. People don't want to talk about this stuff. Am I crazy thinking that, or is that the case?
No, I think that's the case. I think people are really in shock about what happened with the election.
at least out in California.
Yeah, and all over the place too, and the honestly, I think there were very few people who expected this outcome to happen, including people who are supporters of the president-elect. And so it's, the people who supported him are kind of reveling in it, but even some of them are starting to look at some of the things that he's been doing and some of the things he's announcing and saying, well, wait, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
They didn't want 3 people from Goldman Sachs in the cabinet?
He just put another billionaire in the cabinet. The owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars is going to be...
there you go.
Yeah.
That guy ran a football team. He's qualified to do whatever the job they just gave him.
He's going to be some, not the budget director, but he's going to be in the office of, debt management or something.
Prior to this, I didn't know that it was necessary to have a limit to the number of billionaires in the cabinet. Or, I read something that said that the people who he's appointed so far... have a net worth that is greater than the bottom 43% of all of the American citizenry.
Jeez.
Yeah.
There's something fundamentally wrong with that.
Drain the swamp.
Yeah.
At what point do you think we get back to a little bit of normal? When the Oscar nominations come out in a month, are people going to be tweeting at me about them like they were last year?
You can have all the Trump supporters be like, what's Moonlight? Ugh.
Well, I don't have a lot of Trump supporters following me. I have a couple, though. And some of them I get into... Well, there's this one guy on Twitter, and I don't know if he listens to the show or not. I really like talking to him, but we clearly disagree on politics. But what drives me crazy is that... And the thing I always say to him is he was like a Marco Rubio supporter. And I said, look, I don't like Marco Rubio's politics, but I said, he's like... a human being. He's like a man that I feel...
Policy wonk, yeah.
Yeah, you can rationalize. I understand that. I said, there is no way you like Donald Trump. There's no way you really like Donald Trump if you were a Marco Rubio supporter. I said, I don't buy it. And we get into things. But, and then we end up tweeting about, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or something like that. But where was I going with this? I guess the point is, at what point do you think people will start having fun again, particularly on Twitter? I'm still having fun on Twitter, but so many people when will this happen?
So a couple of things. One, the day after the election, a friend of mine said on Twitter, I believe, artists, start your engines. Yeah. I believe that we are going to be in for a period of, over the next few years, of great, wonderful, meaningful art being produced in all media, in movies, in TV, in music. God, it would be great to have some good music again. Novels. I think that we are really... the people who are creative and who are artists are going to step up and start doing things that are meaningful and amazing. And shortly after that happens, things will get a little bit more fun.
I almost want to push back against that a little and say it may also go the opposite direction, where people drown themselves in empty escapist entertainment. More reality TV, more sports, more superheroes, just things that they don't have to think about, where they can check out for a while and not have to engage or deal with.
Well, that might be what the people drown themselves in, but they'll still... But I actually think the answers are going to end up being both, because I think average Joe American probably is going to do that, but I think you're still going to have people creating great art, but who's going to watch and listen to it? The three of us.
On the political gab fest this past week, David Plotz made an interesting point. And I don't know if I fully agree with him, but he said part of the problem why we got into this place is, he goes, I think people, it ties into this, where people aren't having fun, people aren't engaging in pop culture or in the society, and it all had been subsumed by politics. And maybe if we had all sort of stepped away from politics a little bit, and identity politics and all of that, and had just, if we had watched more sports games and had engaged in more, bread and circuses, maybe we wouldn't have been, it's an argument for disengagement. But he was saying that people put a lot of the energy that they would have put into sports or into the election, and it didn't go well.
I know a lot of people who have told me, a lot of smart people that I respect, who have told me that they are now going to disengage, that they just can't deal with it. Like they're exhausted. And I mean, that's what this year, at the end of the day, is going to be remembered for more than anything. That we just, like, this election just exhausted us all. Like, I mean...
Hopefully the rival aliens will show up soon and fix everything.
Well, let me ask you this. Like, we were like, oh, there were no good movies this summer. I mean, were we just also maybe not in the right mindset to enjoy anything that came out this summer?
Like Nocturnal Animals?
Well, that's not a summer movie, but you know what I mean. But I mean, if there are definitely... Like, I know that I've seen, like, when I've been, like, dating a girl and been, like, excited about a relationship, and then I'll go see some sappy movie, and I've walked out like, that's a really great movie. And then years later watching and be like, this movie sucks. Like, do you think there's, like, the opposite effect that, like, maybe Independence Day Resurgence isn't that bad a movie? We just couldn't... That might be a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like, we just couldn't bring ourselves to enjoy it. We couldn't bring ourselves to enjoy just... life.
Maybe. I mean, it was... This year just broke everybody's hearts.
Yeah.
I really... I really didn't see it going that way. You people who listen to this podcast, or people who look in my apartment with giant Hillary Clinton face magnet on my fridge, like, I did not see it going this way.
No, and I didn't either, and I am not a huge Hillary supporter. I was originally a Bernie supporter,
but never a Bernie bro.
No, and never a Bernie or Buster, because that's just silly. But I heard a couple of things that I just wanted to mention. One is, because it was so close in those 3 states. So if we're talking about, 80 or 100,000 votes, if they had been different, it would have been a different outcome. So because it was that close, we can look at a whole bunch of different things and say any one of those might have tipped it.
Right.
And that includes the James Comey leak, the Russian hacking, making sure that Donald Trump wasn't on Twitter for the last 4 days before the election. All sorts of stuff like that. But one thing that I heard someone say, I forget who it was. It might have been Joanne Reed, was talking about Obama and said that to get the first black president, you basically had to have Jackie Robinson. Yeah. You had to have someone who was so good and had such a great temperament.
Irreproachable, yeah.
Right. And we seem to have forgotten that when it came to who can be the first female president.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to point fingers, and I don't want to cast aspersions on her, and I don't want to, engage in any of the Hillary attacking, a lot of which is based on misogyny. But she wasn't a good candidate. She wasn't a good candidate in 2008, and she wasn't a good candidate this year. What I've heard from people who've been in small rooms with her is that she's a completely different person in person, and that she's warm and funny, and I'm not sure what it is that never comes out.
Well, she's not a good campaigner.
Right.
And she can't exude whatever Bill was able to or Barack is able to.
Right.
And she's guarded,
She probably would have been a fine president, though. Like, she's like,
right, I
that's
think she would have been a very good president.
Yeah.
Can we start Kamala Harris 2020 now?
Yeah. Yeah. Harris Warren?
Harris Warren.
Warren Harris? I'm good either way.
No, I think Warren is better in the back rooms, just like pulling the strings and busting balls.
With the shiv.
Yeah, dude, Warren will smile and cut you in the back.
Yeah, I actually felt when people were like, well, Hillary picked Elizabeth Warren, I'm like, no, she needs to be in the Senate. That's where she's going to do her. I mean, look, if she wants to run for president, I'll vote for her in a heartbeat. But yeah, I feel like you're right. I feel like she's more of a backroom kind of person. We bring up Obama, and Obama has clearly been our most pop culture savvy president. Right. Like, he knows movies, he knows sports, he's making Spotify playlists, he's got great comedic timing and is willing to go on a lot of comedy shows, stuff like that. he understands how. He's like. I mean, well, I guess Trump understands social media, so I should throw social media in.
But it's
into
interesting
that.
because I follow the White House like on Instagram and stuff, and they did this South by South lawn where they had a tech summit there, or there's just so much creative energy floating around that White House in the way they're engaging with issues, and they have these summits and they bring in different, it just seems like a place that is alive and engaged with the world, and I don't see any of that happening under Trump. Like, what's it going to be, Is it just going to be like sitting around with his buddies eating bacon cheeseburgers? Like, who's going to be hanging out? It's like, am I going to have to stop following the White House Instagram account? Or, is Ivanka going to become our cultural ambassador in a way and somehow take that mantle?
Here's a sentence I never thought I would say in my life.
Yeah.
There was a great article in Teen Vogue
Yes.
about Donald Trump and gaslighting.
To be fair, you just read it for the articles.
Exactly. Not for the plaid skirts, officer. And it was talking about basically the concept of gaslighting, which is psychological abuse, where you basically tell someone that what they see and hear and experience is completely wrong, and if they disagree with you, it's because they're crazy.
I think that's how Ingrid Bergman ended up married to Roberto Rossellini.
Exactly. And I think that's what we're going to see a lot over the next 4 years. We seem to already be, with Trump and with a lot of his supporters, they don't seem to have any appreciation of truth or the facts.
Or an objective reality.
That's the scariest part. That you present with an actual fact, and they're like, well, no, that's no. And it's like, but no, this is a proven thing.
Well, let me ask you. This is something that I heard and I think is an interesting idea, that on the right, where there was so much appeal to emotion and even the kind of pre-Trump, the Tea Party and all that, there was a lot of hysterical, just grandstanding and Obamacare. And so the way that the left responded was by doubling down on statistics and facts and Nate Silver and data. And it almost worked against us, in that, look, we have all this data, we can show you this, but it doesn't feel right. And that's how their appeal is to emotion, our appeal is to data. And, one is far less exciting. And even so far as the way the polls all played out, and how the right would gleefully look at all the pollsters and said, oh, your wonkery got you nowhere.
Well, Bernie Sanders is a candidate that appealed to emotion.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yes.
And he was squashed like a bug?
Well, he was. And so I don't know what that means about the left then. I mean...
No, but then we take our solace in facts and data, and people don't want to hear it.
That's why I take mine. I mean, that was 90% of that's what I liked. That's what I like. I like these facts.
Right, but you talk to a Trump supporter, and it's the exact opposite. To them, it feels like it's a more dangerous country, and it feels like, immigrants have taken over, and everyone feels marginalized, and that's their home base when they when you stack things against each other.
Well, I think that's why Obama, in a lot of ways, was such an amazing campaigner, because he would have the wonkery, he would have the facts and the data, and the 12-point plans and all of that. But then he could also find a way to just cut through that and appeal to you on an emotional level,
which I think was what Hillary couldn't necessarily do.
Okay, one more thing on Trump and Trump presidency and pop culture.
We're all going to die.
Who is going to come to the White House to be honored by him? There are all these great
wrestlers.
Artists have come to the White House and have gotten these honors, or there's always the Kennedy Center thing. Just the fucking White House Correspondents' Dinner, although maybe there won't even be a Correspondents' Dinner. But, what comedian's going to come and perform for Trump?
Colbert will show up.
Well, there are so many that I'm sure would be willing to, but they're going to eviscerate him if they go there, and he's not going to be happy about it.
Well, what I think is really frightening is that
Larry the Cable Guy at the Correspondents' Dinner.
That's not far off.
Well, the right has this thing now where whenever anyone makes any sort of not really even attack, but whenever anyone says something against someone they like or against one of their positions, they have this army that goes out and attacks people.
Yeah.
And literally will.
Also, it's Taylor Swift, to be fair.
Yeah, but Taylor Swift doesn't usually tweet out someone's home address and say go and hang out on the lawn.
Good point.
Usually. It's going to be weird to see how.
Like you said, our sports teams are the Cubs going to go to the White House?
Yeah.
Does Donald Trump even know what sports are? Like,
Trump's a sport. Trump's. I mean,
has he ever been to a game?
Yeah, he goes. He's a big Yankee fan.
Oh, okay.
He goes.
Of course he is. He's in favor of any team that can buy.
I'm a big. He goes. I don't think he'll have the time now, or maybe he will. No, but he goes to a lot of Yankee. He was close with Steinbrenner.
Yeah. So, what kind of cultural figures would get, let's talk about Obama just gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Vin Scully and Bruce Springsteen. And, and I could see Trump doing it to someone like, the owner of the Colts, Jim Irsay.
I think Trump would probably want to give these things to the same people, because I don't think Trump doesn't, he knows
everyone.
Yeah, he knows who's popular in the culture.
Like Howard
knows
Stern's
things
getting
like
a medal.
that. If anything, I got no problem with that. What do I care? Give Howard Stern a
Presidential Medal of Freedom.
All right. This is a part of the show where I do my thing, but I don't know if I can anymore. 2017. Last year on our last show, our enemy was 2016, because we knew it was going to be a shitty year. We called it. We called it first. We called it before anyone. We said it was going to be a dumpster fire, and instead it was a chemical fire in a kindergarten classroom. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, who the fuck knows anymore? One thing is certain, 2017... I am saying it right now, is going to be even worse. I can't do this anymore. 2016, you have broken me. I'm broken. I can't scream. I can't yell. So all I'm going to say, in a very untraditional Will Link way, fuck you, 2017. You're the enemy of the podcast. Go fuck yourself. Can it be good? It can't be good. Oh, the only thing we have to... This is what we have to look forward to.
We have 2 certainties.
We have 2 certainties, yes. We got President Trump, and we got Star Wars Episode 8. Those are the only things, and I'm hoping we live long enough to make it to Episode 8. Then we got to worry about... We're going to have 2 Star Wars episode movies in this Trump presidency. Are we going to make it to Episode 9?
I don't know.
Oh, my God. I'm broke. I'm a broken man, Alex. What do I do?
So the one thing I have to say is we can't let these years get the best of us. I feel like the problem is that we didn't give 2016 a hug when it needed it. We didn't nurture it when it was a little baby year. Let's not make that mistake with 2017.
Well, yeah, we tried, then David Bowie died and fucked us all up.
Well, to be fair, you may have tried. I didn't try. I said it was going to be shitty, and it was. Now I'm saying 2017 is going to be shitty. Let me ask a really deep question here. Maybe it's not deep. I don't know.
Depth is relative now that Donald Trump was elected.
Was 2016 a bad year, or do we just have no perspective on it? Like, maybe 5 years from now we'll look back and be like, 2016, you weren't so bad.
My retirement account did well. Wasn't so bad.
Well, there were good things that happened in 2016, definitely. But overall,
Kate McKinnon, we said it.
Yeah, but overall, it was just an awful year, and it was a really bad year for a lot of people. As we're taping this, a couple nights ago, they had a concert with Chrissy Hind of the Pretenders and Stevie Nicks, and I was having a conversation with my wife Amy, and we were trying to figure out how old Chrissy Hind was. So because we have this machine now, so I Googled how old is Chrissy Hind, and Google, who's trying to be helpful, I guess, or just thinks that 2016 is just so shitty that it can suggest this, had this box that came up that said, people who ask, how old is Chrissy Hind, also ask, is Ray Davies dead? And I was like, don't give 2016 any ideas. There's 2 more weeks.
Jesus.
No, nothing like that. No.
We always say every time we're done recording the podcast, we go online to see, okay, who died while we were recording? Like, what happened in the 1 hour that we weren't looking at our phones?
How old is Chrissy Hine?
Chrissy Hynde is 65, and she still rocks really hard.
That's great. That was the kiss
Now,
of death.
how about this? What if on December 30th, they find Bill Cosby hung himself in his cell? Like, would that redeem the year at all?
Is he in a cell?
Wherever he is, he hung himself on a
that doesn't
on
redeem-
Jell-O pudding.
That doesn't redeem the year. No.
Thank God Bill Cosby's blind now, so he didn't have to see all this stuff in 2016. That's horrible. I'm sorry I said that.
No, I just no, that doesn't redeem. Well, look, the year can't be redeemed at this point.
It could get worse though.
But that's the thing. Even personally, for people I know, like I just know people who have had a shitty year. I know a lot of people close to me who's had a lot of death close to them.
Yeah.
I know people whose family members, people whose boyfriends have just died in horribly tragic ways.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I hope we never experience anything like this.
May you
again.
live in interesting times. Well, it wasn't all bad for this one person.
Okay, so I always like to end on a weird note. This is the last one of these for the year. When a banking glitch accidentally granted an Australian law student massive overdraft privileges, he did what he thought anyone in his shoes would do: spend, spend, spend. Luke Moore breezed through $1.5 million on sports cars, boats, luxury vacations, and strippers. But the law finally caught up to him, and he was sentenced to 4 years in prison for fraud for spending the money from St. George's Bank. He got out. He's out after 5 months due to a ruling from the Supreme Court of New South Wales. But today he's broke. He had to sell all his expensive toys to give money back to the bank. He's living with his mom. Let me tell you what, though. He did everything right.
He has a great story.
He had to do that.
And he doesn't miss the high life, he explained to the Australian Daily Telegraph, except for the cocaine, the strippers, and the fast cars.
Let me tell you what.
So it wasn't all bad for one guy.
I think...
Luke Moore, you're the hero of the podcast.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, at this point, I guess I'd have to do it.
Listen, if you had the overdraft, think of it this way. Boom. You live the high life. You blow it out in like 4 months, and then 4 years in prison. Time you get out, Trump, that's 4 years. You don't have to deal with the Trump presidency.
Yeah.
You're just in the who's gal.
Yeah. I'll write a book
Yeah.
in prison.
Imagine how much reading will get done.
Yeah.
3 square meals a day.
I'll
Not
miss
too
out
bad.
on Game of Thrones.
And by 2020, maybe we'll have changed the laws so that Australians can be elected president. I'd vote for him.
I vote for this.
Well, he's now studying to be a criminal lawyer, which makes me
Of
think...
course he is.
Don't you have to pass an ethics test before you're allowed to practice law? Like, how is this dude gonna...
I want this guy as my lawyer.
You want him?
To be
The only way to
fair-
catch a thief is to hire...
Australia started as a penal colony, so
He's just doing what his ancestors would have been proud to do. I'll tell you what, if I find out I got all this money, I mean, I have to. You have to. You got to live the life. Alex,
strippers, cocaine, and cars.
that's the
I don't
life.
see you doing the cocaine, though. I think just like expensive booze. Go for that gentleman jack.
You know what? Maybe I will do the cocaine.
Because you can.
Maybe that's it. How many days we got left in this year? I'm going to do coke every one of them now.
I see you cultivating like a really high-end Scotch habit.
Yeah.
That would be more
That happened
likely.
to a friend of mine. He, growing up, his parents never had any money, and then he got his first job out of college and got very, very well paid, and he was single and living in this great apartment, and he just started buying expensive scotch. He's like, I don't know what to spend my money on. He went on day one with his first check, bought himself a sports car, crashed it 2 days later, and this wasn't like, one of these cases where, he just had a good steady salary and low personal expenses and no student loans. So he would just go, and now he's like, has a ridiculous scotch collection because he spends so much money on scotch.
The last thing I would buy, though, is like like some fancy car. I could give a shit. I'll drive my Ford Focus. I could win like $100 million in the lottery tomorrow, and I will drive my Ford Focus into the ground before I buy a new car because I don't.
And then
care.
you would complain about having to spend money on repairs for it.
I'd be like, I don't care about this thing.
But wouldn't you get a new Ford Focus?
Once I drive it into the ground, yeah.
He's going to take a dealership, just upgrade me.
And on that note, Alex, thank you so much for ending the year with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry it's not under better circumstances.
Will you come back at the end of 2017, talk about how shitty that year was?
I will, but here's my hope. My hope and prayer for all of us and all of our listeners is that 2017 actually, by some miracle, turns out to be a great year.
I actually think... No, maybe. No,
Until we start going to war over the South China Sea.
Alex, one more time. Tell the people where they can find you.
Find me on Facebook, facebook.com/Alex M. Stein.
And on Twitter.
And on Twitter, @ColdfootFilms.
Sean.
You could find me on social media @TheSeanDavid, but I haven't been very active there recently.
You gotta get back on it.
I will eventually. I just need more time. I think
You're part of the no fun. You're no fun.
I think Twitter
Put the social back in social media.
I think Twitter was responsible for a lot of what we lived through, and I just needed to disconnect.
I have found Twitter very cathartic because I don't follow a bunch of assholes like you do.
There, I'm back on Twitter.
Okay, there's a good visual aid for the people of the podcast.
It says, while you were gone, and then there's tweets from April.
Yeah, all right, good. I went back on Twitter. I just saw Molly Lambert tweet.
You can follow me on Twitter The Real Will Link. I've already said I haven't been doing any shows lately, so I got no shows to plug.
One thing, Starly, I'm picking up followers on Twitter, and I haven't been on in over a month. I don't understand how these people are finding me.
The people miss you. On the show next week, there is no show. We're taking a Christmas break, but we are going to start the new year right with our guest Dan Freeman. He just wrote a book that's on Amazon. You could get it. We're going to talk about it.
Fiction, nonfiction?
It's fiction.
All right,
but
good.
I think it's based on a deep personal truth.
Got it.
This sounds like an episode everyone needs to listen to so that they can find out what the deep personal truth is.
I think they do. And so for all those people that will be listening, want to thank you for, taking the ride with us through 2016, through the downs and the downs. It's been a crazy year. Hopefully we made it a little better in some way, and we're able to cheer you up, make you laugh, piss you off, who knows. But once again, I want to thank all of you, and here's to 2017.
Yeah.
For the Will Sean Podcast, Alex, thank you so much. For the Will Sean Podcast, I'm Sean David.
I'm Will Link.
I'm Alex Stein.
And that is a wrap on a truly terrible year. We're finished.
We're finished.